Hello! I'm yet again sick, one of the perks of working in a hospital, but I'm back with another reaction video. This time, we'll be visiting our conservative Zoomer friend again to see why she left the left, as it were. Be sure to check out the previous video on her to get a feel for what brand of discount politics she represents here. Of course, don't go bothering anyone, this is more an analysis of what she's saying rather than her as a person. Let's get into it.
I grew up calling myself a Democrat and pretty liberal, all that stuff, because all my friends were liberals and I went to a liberal high school. So I just sort of identified with that. Didn't really agree with a lot of stuff that my friends were saying, but kind of kept quiet because I saw everyone else that were speaking their minds literally getting shunned by the rest of the students. So I was like, okay, better not touch that, because I knew, oh, well, I can't really say what I actually think.
Now, she's coming from an American perspective about American educational systems, both of which I have no experience with personally, so I'll comment on as an outsider looking in. Firstly, the Democrat/Republican division isn't real for most people. They're both parties that stand for capital, except one is seemingly more vocal about social issues without actually doing anything about it. Everything that was supposed to be prevented by voting Democrats in basically still happened, or Americans just got some light appeasement to dull emotions till it's time to basically do nothing again. Regardless, she makes two interesting points. Everyone around her was liberal, so she was one as well. Secondly, everyone who spoke their mind basically became some sort of bearer of truth that deviated from orthodoxy. She's never clear in this video on what exactly those speaking their mind were saying, but I think the usual assumptions are fair, mildly sexist, racist, or otherwise discriminatory points, otherwise it wouldn't be considered speaking their mind. Regardless, she doesn't seem to understand that 1. Conservatives are by and large philosophical liberals too, especially by their unabating allegiance to capitalism, and 2. That those same conservatives were also probably surrounded by just conservatives, hence also echoing their opinions. She's preaching to a conservative audience, so naturally she wants to appeal to them by presenting it as if what she, and by extension they, believe is common sense, while what anyone else believes is ridiculous. Her only real disagreement with American liberals, it seems, is on some social issues, otherwise they're in the same camp.
But I think my journey started after I watched The Social Dilemma, which is an amazing documentary that I watched on Netflix. I don't know if it's on Netflix anymore, but either way, it was so amazing, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So this was around the 2020 election, I believe. It basically talked about how big tech companies such as Facebook and YouTube were advertising certain videos to certain people. So let's say that you are a very conservative person, you're going to keep getting very conservative YouTube videos, for example, because they sell your information to other companies, and then those companies will say, oh, this person wants to see X, Y, and Z, and so they will promote that on your page.
The Social Dilemma is a documentary about how current social media is a net negative for society as a result of its pursuit of profit by creating echo chambers, spreading misinformation directly resulting in mental health disorders, etc., all in an effort to maintain engagement and engender addiction to these spaces. Interesting that she doesn't see how this could be a scathing critique of capitalism, but instead later twists toward social issues, again repeating the common patterns of liberals in all their stripes. They fundamentally are ignorant of, unable to, or simply refuse to criticize capitalism as the core issue, despite clear and direct links to what they're trying to criticize otherwise, which in this case was the social media manipulation for profit point.
I was getting a bunch of lefty, woke type of content. But this creates the illusion that everyone around you thinks the same way as you do, which is not the case. And with my school and the people I associated with being very left-leaning, I thought that the right was just this small group of hillbilly, bigoted, racist people, because that's what they made them seem like.
This point is important. Again, identifying with the opinions of your social group is common even in conservative circles, but you understand why she's doing this. More importantly, the idea that conservatives are hillbillies who don't understand how the world works is a common liberal prejudice that socialists do not share. The ruling class regularly uses these secondary social issues to drive divisions between people. That doesn't excuse bigotry, which liberals have plenty of, don't worry, but it's good to remember that there are material conditions behind so-called hillbilly perspectives, if you want to even call them that. They're taking our jobs is usually racist, yeah, but also reflects the horrific employment and job insecurity situation within the US. They're all welfare queens reflects anxiety over social spending, which combined with ignorance over, for example, surplus value extraction, tax cuts for the wealthiest, and a bloated military budget results in racism, as it's easier to point at the out group, for example, black people as a white person, rather than the in group, white people, who in total receive more welfare than minority groups. In general, this is a result of not focusing on the prime contradiction, which is class struggle, and the shared interest between workers. That's not to say there's no intersection of gender or race or class, etc., but the nuance of this requires education, and when many politicians even claim the US is a classless society, there's still plenty of work required. If you'd like a primer on the intersectionality point, check out episode 42 of the Deprogram podcast here.
I shared a post. It was basically a short clip of the documentary where the guy was talking about how it's really upsetting that friendships are being torn apart just because of political views, and that really hit home for me because I wasn't agreeing with a lot of what my friends were saying. This was during BLM and the Biden and Trump election, so a lot of the things that my friends were saying I wasn't in agreement with, and I felt very pressured to either keep silent or agree. So I posted this because in general, I thought it was really sad that a lot of friendships were being broken just because of a disagreement in political views, which I always thought was silly because why can't we live in harmony and still be friends even if we have different political views?
Now here's where I have to disagree a little bit. Yes, you shouldn't tear families apart because of Biden versus Trump, but likewise, some people do genuinely hold dangerous opinions that can simply be their perspective to them, but hold real consequences for other groups of people. A perfect example are those in favor of mass deportation. Sure, a white American could say this and it's a cute opinion that has no effect on their lives, but for many people within the US currently, the consequences of these opinions can ruin lives, destroy livelihoods, and even result in death. Likewise with increased policing in so-called urban neighborhoods. Likewise for many other similar opinions. Live and let live only works when your life and livelihood wouldn't be at stake because of your friend's opinion.
It's really good to be friends with someone that has a different perspective and a different view on life in general, because if you're with the same people who have the same exact view as you, it doesn't really promote thinking or questioning anything.
I wonder, does she practice what she preaches?
So after I posted this, I wasn't really expecting anything. I just posted it because I thought it was very true and resonated with me. But I was surprised. I got 3 or 4 of my friends text messaging me saying, "Why would you post that? Are you a Trump supporter now? Like, what's going on?" Basically, they were ready to attack me. They were proving my point that I can't really post or say anything without people getting defensive or offended. And it really made me miss the days when we could all say, "Oh, let's agree to disagree."
Firstly, I don't believe her story. Maybe it did happen, but it just sounds a little silly. Regardless, some adolescent friends giving you pushback on this or that opinion isn't being cancelled, and high school or uni isn't real life for the most part. Secondly, again on the agree to disagree part, there was a time in your country not too long ago where being a black man with a white woman could get you lynched. This is one insufferable thing about liberals and all their stripes. Playing devil's advocate, saying it how it is, etc. always comes from people with no personal stake in the opinion they're giving. Meanwhile, actual flesh and blood people can face dire consequences if these perspectives are popularized or acted on. Back to the video in just a second. Let's hear from today's sponsor, Atlas VPN. For a lot of research that I do for my videos, I end up hitting pages that aren't available in my location. That's frustrating, as you can imagine. Geo-restriction really does suck, but not with Atlas VPN. For those unaware, a virtual private network makes all of your internet traffic travel through an encrypted tunnel. This way, it protects you from spying, public Wi-Fi dangers, and hides your IP address and your online activities. It even allows you to change your location for all your researching needs. Developed by top cybersecurity specialists and IT engineers in 2019, Atlas VPN was created to make the internet accessible and secure for everybody. Currently, it has more than 6 million users worldwide, and boasts the best VPN deal on the market, with the most affordable online protection plan for just under $2 per month, if you can believe it, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So, what are you waiting for? Go down to the description and click that link, and use my code Hakeem to get a 3-year subscription for just $183 a month, with 3 months free. But that's not all. You get blazing fast speeds for streaming or gaming, unlimited protection for all your devices, an inbuilt ad and malware blocker, and you'll get to save some extra cash as Atlas VPN will find you the best deal online from everything from your online subscriptions to airlines, hotels, and more. Right now, Atlas VPN is running a huge discount. It means you can get a 3-year subscription for just $183 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Time is running out, so get your deal by clicking the link in the video description below. Massive thanks to Atlas VPN for the sponsorship. This is what allows me to pay my editor fairly, so the support is highly appreciated. Alright, back to the video.
But now that does not exist. If you disagree, you have to be cancelled and shunned. There's no freedom of speech anymore.
This is her just preaching. Cancel culture doesn't exist. Every comedian that's complained about it does so on their heavily sponsored Netflix comedy special. Those cancelled actors still act. Those cancelled politicians are still in politics and still sitting in the same seats they were in before, mostly. Many times, being cancelled has bolstered people's careers in the public eye, too. No one has fundamentally had their free speech limited aside from a few mean retweets on Twitter. Likewise, facing consequences for what you say and do is not a free speech violation.
And then my classes start. And there were trigger warnings on every piece of literature. If you had this in your past, if you experienced that, you can leave the class, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. Literally raising toddlers, like you have to be coddled and protected from everything in the world. That's not how the world works.
This is alien to my experience, and I've personally never seen this in any educational institution I've visited, but maybe this really is the case for the US. The current research seems to indicate that trigger warnings actually aren't very helpful for trauma survivors, and I'm on the side of empirical evidence when it comes to mental health and its experiences. Though honestly, is it really that big of a deal that there was a trigger warning on some book? Do you need trigger warnings for trigger warnings, maybe? Honestly, just look past it, who cares? By the way, about the woke university thing, literally every single step of my and my peers' education was absolutely steeped in anti-communism, even in medicine. Anecdotal evidence isn't great, sure, but I'm always surprised to hear that my professors were commie stuff.
Within that same week, I was asked to then write a paper about how I was privileged being white, but also marginalized being a woman. So this was some intersectionality paper that we had to write, and there was no room for debate because I was thinking, wait, but I don't think that I'm privileged in this way or that I'm marginalized in this way. I think I don't really identify with that. There's no room for discussion, okay? You're given this narrative and you have to write about how this applies to your life, even if you disagree.
Do you really have the intellectual depth of a puddle? Has being a woman literally never disadvantaged you in your life? Can you genuinely claim with a straight face that being white in a majority white society has ever once helped you out, even a little bit? She seems to think unless you get shot for the first or have people throwing money on you in the second, then these categories simply don't exist. I'm doubtful that there was no room for discussion. Most likely, the teacher needed something handed into grade, and writing 2 sentences of uninspired nonsense about not being privileged or marginalized didn't meet that requirement.
They teach you that if you're white, you're racist. You may not know it yet, but you're racist. And again, I did not agree with that, but I wasn't given a choice to debate. It's like they're forcing you to make stuff up. Words in articles that we were reading were being censored because they were offensive. And we weren't really learning things. We were just talking about how it impacted us and our feelings and how it made us feel and how we were feeling and feeling and feeling and feeling. What about facts? Like, for real, what about 1 + 1 = 2? What about actual facts? Why aren't we learning that? Why do I have to sit through a 60-minute class talking about how this article made me feel inside, or how I'm discriminated against as a woman, or how I'm privileged for being white? I mean, I came here to learn.
I'm sure this is hyperbole, but subconscious biases do exist, and to deny that you have them is to lie, or do the same virtue signaling BS that liberals you hate love to do. There's nothing wrong in recognizing this fact, all the research proves it already. In fact, recognizing it is the first step in actually standing for the facts that you claim to do. Furthermore, why is she so against listening to other perspectives despite claiming to want more of that? Cool, you don't think you're, for example, privileged for being white. Why not listen and see the other argument? Because again, the empirical research is very clear that being darker means worse treatment in society, worse treatment in healthcare, fewer opportunities in the job market, amongst many other biases starting even in childhood. Refusing to engage with these facts and recognize that on some level you have at least a slight leg up because of your skin tone is simply a refusal to engage with the facts, something you're blasting liberals on. You seemingly just wanted a different kind of safe space, but one that tailored to your opinions and perspectives, which fair enough, I guess, but just be transparent about it next time. About the censoring articles thing, again, I'll have to see what she means exactly because I've never come across anything like this in academic spaces personally.
I had a math class, my calculus class once, and we started talking about how the government should do more to help protect those less fortunate. I'm just sitting in this math class thinking, oh my god, I literally came here to do calculus. What is this? I had a psychology class where we were watching a video about how race isn't real, but then also how race is really important, and it wasn't making any sense, and then we were talking about critical race theory.
Alright, she's all over the map. At first, she's like, I want people to be able to debate in a civil manner. Then she disagrees with the timing or place of it, even if it may have been tangentially relevant. Seems like she wants everything on her own terms, something she keeps accusing the other side of. The race isn't real but is important bit is more of her arrogance and thinking she knows all, meanwhile having the intellectual depth of a clogged sink. Race is a social construct, not an empirical fact, but the consequences of being perceived or considered as a member of this or that race are important because it directly affects you and your life. I made several race videos you can check out if you're interested, here. So far it just seems like she disliked things she didn't understand and that made her uncomfortable.
The true left quickly expose themselves to me as people who judge others based on these categorizations they made for them. So if you're white, you're bad, or if you're a woman, you're good. Instead of actually looking at someone's personality, their character, none of that matters anymore. It's just these attributes, how much money do you have? Are you a male or a female, or neither? Extra brownie points. Are you black? Are you white? No one cared what kind of person you were, what you knew. It was all about how you identify.
Ah, yes, because conservatives have never done that, right? Come on, let's not be silly. First of all, campus liberals aren't the true left. Maoist guerrillas in the Philippines, the Chinese or Cuban or Vietnamese communist parties currently in power, those are the true left. As it currently stands, there is barely a left within the US. Read up on the concept of the Overton window. The attributes thing is more of her not understanding basic sociology. People are more than if they're kind to their dog. I'm sure there are plenty of Israeli settlers that are good fathers to their kids. That doesn't change the fact that they're a cog in a highly oppressive and murderous system in Palestine. No one seriously says white equals bad, genuinely. I've been in this sphere for a decade now and have never seen that outside of fringe groups on the margins or just in jokes. Class is important. Race is also important. Your gender and gender expression can inform many things about how you view the world, as well as how the world treats you. Come on, this stuff isn't difficult to grasp, man. No one cares what kind of person you are is a silly point, but it should be clear that society is more than just you, and when you deal with large social movements, you sorting the trash on time or other arbitrary measures of being a good person aren't exactly the most important factors.
I heard countless students present on why they identify as communists and socialists.
Based.
I went home and I thought, I was starting to reflect, what did I learn today? All I really learned was that white people are evil racists. And that was the whole debate and that was the whole discussion in one of my philosophy classes, I think. And I was not learning. I was literally just being indoctrinated and just brainwashed into this nonsense.
So something didn't align with your ideological presuppositions, and you decided to, instead of listen and develop some understanding either for or against, you just left. Some intellectual fortitude you have. By the way, I'm incredibly doubtful that the point of the lesson was whites are evil and racist. That's most probably just your interpretation of the slightest discussion around whiteness, colonialism, race relations in the US, or any other related topic. Pathetic, honestly.
It was just getting so annoying because every class was political without exception. Politics should not be in the classroom. A classroom should be a place where you're learning essential knowledge like math, science, history. Why do I have to be taught politics in math? Why do I have to go into a science class and taught about how racist America is in 2022?
That's because life is almost entirely political. I'm glad you've had the privilege of not ever realizing that because the integrity of your life has never been threatened by political actions, but that's not the same for minorities in the US or Europe, Palestinians in their own land, people who live in refugee camps, hell, any worker in the imperial periphery. It's ridiculous I need to tell you that history, for example, is political. It's not an objective subject, likewise with plenty of science, depending on the form. It genuinely sounds to me like she heard one or two things in a few classes and then decided to leave because it was more ideologically comfortable. Also, at no point did she say what she studied, so all of this stuff may be highly relevant to her degree, who knows? She then complains some more about cancel culture and how you can't say anything anymore, which please define what that anything is, and go on. She also mentions how some students could apparently get expelled for offending others, but when looking online I didn't find much aside from people being expelled for committing actual crimes like assault, or funnily enough, students getting suspended for pointing out racism, so the opposite of what she's claiming.
I was so sick of being forced to learn about this victimhood and forced into political discussions. Long story short, I left my old university, but not just the university, I left the left, guys. Because most importantly, I value my freedom of speech.
She's essentially upset that she had to be present when discussing political topics that didn't immediately and 100% relate to her personal experience. The sign of a mature human being, clearly. The freedom of speech meme is just that, it's a meme. No one's preventing you from saying anything, and it clearly hasn't stopped you from running your channel in the way you do. Yeah, what can I say? That's the video. Typical whining without substance, but what can be done? Anyways, she's currently trying to do her Ben Shapiro light shtick in the UK by being pro-monarchy despite being American and claiming to champion true liberalism earlier in this video. Make it make sense, I don't know. People like this are either grifting, as is her case I believe, or generally just need someone to be patient when talking with them about these topics, something liberals are incapable of because they're emanating from an incorrect position to begin with. It's all part of the agitate, educate, organize, in this case, focus on the educate bit. So yeah, that's it. If you enjoy what I do, then please consider supporting me on Patreon, it really does help. I'd like to thank my patrons, so thank you to Eli the Bee, Srinivas Damadikari, Talia Benson, Wood Kortler, Unknown 608, Elia Clemens, Matthias, ML, Andy Fout, Otis Wingsman, Copium Vopium, Mitchell Bowden, Caleb Cody, Crumbo, Conrad Piccolo, John Munger, Matsov, Ten Giz, Thomas Jackson, Amor Forrest, Metin, Gorbachev's Pizza Putt, Jojo, JP Tyndall, Nakai, Aspen, Enes Akinci, Lily Lolliot, is that an L reference? Or Roscoe Juan, Ideas Smith, and Zach Pip. Thanks for watching.